What else should we be looking for? It feels like they can probably afford to add at wide receiver. There's only 5 scholarship guys on the roster there. Linebacker, there's some depth. Cornerback, you could afford a little more depth. I think, Chris, you've heard that maybe kicker is something that they look at as well. I mean, where when this portal opens on Tuesday, what are some position groups we should maybe be looking for?
Yeah, wrote a column about this after speaking to some people close to the program a few days ago where, okay, first things first, right? Everybody's like, well, you can't tamper. There's no such thing anymore because you've got agents working for these kids that are reaching out to coaches all the time. And if they can get a better deal for their clients and these kids are willing to go and want to go, then they're going to go and they can talk about it. The NIL agent can talk to Michigan and talk to the collectives, any other collective and say, you know what, we're looking for a better opportunity. Now we've heard that it's kind of slim pickings with kickers right now and that they've been struggling to find somebody initially. It's not like there's a James Turner from Saline who's at Louisville, right? And can be the missing piece to a national championship team. So you maybe have to do a little bit more convincing or pay a little bit more money. So we'll see if that, what they can do there, but they definitely need a kicker. Guys, we've seen how important that is, right? With Jake Moody, with James Turner last year, arguably one of the most important pieces that was kind of overlooked. Look what he did in that Ohio State game, guys. Unbelievable, right? So, and you have to have somebody that can make those in those tight games. That's going to be the key to beating the Texases and the Oregons and maybe Ohio State. So, but they are going to look for a wide receiver. They are going to look for another linebacker. They love their first 2 linebackers. Looks like Nikhai Hill-Green, who's in the portal now and has been on campus, could be that guy, assuming all credits transfer. Now he's a graduate and all that, so that should make it easier. Nikhai Hill-Green could be back for another stint at Michigan. And then you look at another corner. They want another corner to complement Will Johnson. You've got a couple young guys there, DJ Waller Jr., and you've got Jair Hill, but they'd still like one more proven guy. Josh Wallace would be like perfect, right? There's another one who played unbelievably well. Boy, was their success rate in the portal the last several years good. So that's what we're looking at right now. And hopefully those guys are out there in addition to maybe a quarterback. I think that what we've heard is that, well, if it's Alex Orji, then, we're hopeful he'll be another Jalen Milroe. But will they continue to look? Absolutely, and they should. And especially now, when people say it's not fair to these kids, it's free agency, guys, unlimited year to year. It's completely fair, and it's just the way it is.
Well, yeah, you'd ask the same kid that would say this is unfair. Say, do you have an NIL agent that has had conversations with another school's collective or that sort of thing? It's just the way it goes right now. So you got to make sure you get as much competition in those rooms as possible. And if guys can't handle that, then they will go somewhere else. And that's how college football is going at this point. I do want to say, too, the hit rate has been fantastic on these transfers. It does help that they have come in from, either a lower level or maybe, playing well on a worse team. They come in, they have great players around them. Like Josh Wallace wouldn't have been the corner he was last year without having Will Johnson on the other side and really good safety play and, great defensive line to help out the coverage unit on the back end. But that's what Michigan's become, and especially on defense. Like, I think you add a D-back or, like you said, like a Nikhai Hill-Green for depth at linebacker. Like, you're a few pieces away from kind of having a pretty complete unit there. On offense, wide receiver is going to be big. I mean, they tried to get some of those taller wide receivers back in December. They missed on a few. They weren't able to reel that guy in. But you said it, AB. The numbers are really low at wide receiver. I mean, look at the guys who are seniors. It's Peyton O'Leary, a former walk-on, who hasn't done anything to this point in his career in meaningful time. Christian Dixon, who switched to cornerback before spring ball. And I think, Carmelo English leaves. They realize there are snaps up for grabs here. He's back at wide receiver now, at least according to the roster. You have, Tyler Morris and Samaj Morgan have played a little bit, but I think you need a wide receiver, and that would help whoever the quarterback is too. Do you look at an offensive tackle? I know that's one of the positions where it costs, a lot of money to get a good offensive tackle. And that's interesting too about this. Why, in the past they've added, they haven't added as many D linemen, wide receivers, those types, offensive tackle. Those are commanding the most money outside of quarterback right now, it seems like, in the transfer portal. So are they able to do that with what they have NIL wise too?
Yeah, and I will say that they are, as of now, they are not looking for an offensive lineman. Now, if you get an elite one, guys, or an elite defensive lineman that wants to come, you take them as well. You know
I
what?
agree.
And you don't make any apologies for it. So we'll see. But and again, you like you said, Clay, it takes money, and Michigan's still lagging. Some of these big programs when it comes to NIL, as we wrote today, they are going to be starting a tour with Sharon Moore and the trophy. I think Clayton Safey's going to be there with his 10 grand right up there in the front row. We'll ask him to get a couple of interviews.
My 110 grand. Yeah.
So, you know, it's going to be a big money deal, but they need more money too, fellas. And especially after next year, guys, if they want to reload and if they want to be competitive, then they're going to have to get some more NIL support.
Absolutely. I look at our other position group. One more that kind of strikes me as maybe needing just one more body there would be maybe edge. I think that Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart are going to be a terrific duo. And I really think that TJ Guy, I mean, is going to step into an opportunity that he's probably a little overdue for, given the fact that they've been so deep there the last few years. But the great Michigan defenses of, you know, the last 2 years in particular had a fourth guy at the edge. And, you know, maybe it's not something you fill in this window here. I mean, think back a couple of years ago, you add Iabioki 2 weeks before the season starts. I guess that, you know, that was a bit of a special circumstance, but I think they could probably afford to add one more rotational pass rusher there. But other than that, I mean, it's not quite as deep as it was, but they were also uniquely deep the last few years. So at some point, you gotta develop and cultivate your own guys too, which they have, and they've done a tremendous job of doing that. But that would be maybe one more spot I would look at. So any other thoughts on the transfer portal, surprises, maybe departures from the program? Everything seems somewhat stable there.
Does Iabi have any eligibility left?
I believe he played in one of those all-star games. So he is in the NFL draft, so to speak.
He's probably going to get drafted. Yeah, good for him.
Right. Yeah. And wish him all the best, you know? So, nope, I think we've covered it all. And now guys, just get prepared. What are we, a day away from it's kind of like waiting for the stock market to open, right? On a big day, you know, and the bell rings or crash. Exactly. I said open. I didn't say go up or down, you know, but to see what's going to happen. It could go either way.
It's like that Wolf of Wall Street scene where McConaughey's like, 3, 2, 1. It's 9:30 a.m. and then like a half hour later, they all just stop in their tracks because it crashed. And that's going to happen around the country at a bunch of different programs because it's going to be chaos. I mean, you see these national reporters hinting to it that like the things they've heard behind the scenes about what are going to happen, and you could have guys that already have signed NIL contracts with a collective at their school, but like you said earlier, Chris, well, their agents are still going to be working the phones or fielding calls from other schools. And hey, well, you're making $400,000 here. How about $750 over there? And that's going to be hard for some of these kids to turn down. So there are going to be a lot of fan bases upset, and you're going to lose guys quicker than you gain them because, you know, you can only enter for 2 weeks or 15 days. And then you can get guys, you know, throughout the summer and everything else. I mean, Josh Wallace, remember last year, joins the team in June. So everyone's going to be freaking out for 2 weeks. But then you're going to get kids too, and you're going to remember it goes both ways. It's a two-way street, but it's going to be chaos, I think.
All you can really hope for is that as the University of Michigan and as the defending national champion, that you are a team that benefits from the chaos as opposed to being affected by it. So we'll see, man. It's going to be interesting for sure. But let's turn our focus back to the spring game on Saturday.